Hey guys, welcome to Goodwill Dynamics. We on this show like to try to suss out the meaning of goodwill and specifically how we can go about pursuing goodwill in a complex contemporary world. Um, Lately, we've been looking at a lot of internet posts, specifically on Reddit, and we've got another one for you today. This is an interesting relationship post that's not so much romantic relationship, but more of a somebody feeling a certain amount of that emotion of jealousy towards somebody in their life. And we thought it was an interesting one. So we're going to just read that for you now. Adam, do you want to take that away for us?
You bet. Thanks, Nick. How do I, 22 female, overcome my jealousy of my cousin, 22 female, who's living the life that I wanted? How can I explain why I've pulled back? For context, my cousin and I were born a day apart, so we grew up alongside one another. Because we're the same age, it felt like we were always being compared. I started feeling jealous early on because she had everything I didn't: married and loving parents, fun extracurriculars, a private education, etc. It got worse when we hit high school because she was so beautiful, successful, and independent, while I was stuck in an ugly phase and couldn't seem to achieve my goals no matter how much work I put in. Anyway, cut to college and we got accepted to the same university as roommates. Same situation. I struggled to make friends, handle coursework, and fit in. She glided through it. I eventually had to drop out my first year because I couldn't afford it. I was devastated. She's gone on to have an amazing college experience and to achieve some incredible goals, all the things I planned on doing. I understand that I should be happy for her, but I just can't. It's too painful to see her get the life I dreamed about. Don't get me wrong, she worked hard for it, but for some reason things never worked out for me. How can I overcome these feelings of jealousy and bitterness? None of it was her fault. I decided to pull away from her and go low contact because I needed an internal break from it all. We're going to see each other for the holidays, and I know she has questions. How do I tell her about my feelings or explain my absence? Should I say anything at all?
Right. Well, we're going to dive into that one. But first, as always, we're going to do a round of introductions. This is Goodwill Dynamics. My name is Nick. And as always, the voice who reads the stories, that's Adam over there.
Hey, how you doing?
And we've got Joshua.
Hey.
And of course, all the way from the great and mighty land of Denmark is Annie.
Hi.
So jealousy, it's a bee. It's it's a bad look, but what is it really? What do you guys think?
Normal feelings, right?
Okay.
And it's understandable in this situation. It's, some lives just seem to go perfectly, right? We all know these people. Everything seems just right and wonderful, but often there are things below the surface. I mean, not every life is that perfect. And so I think communicating with her cousin and expressing her feelings honestly is appropriate. And, obviously she acknowledges that, this has nothing to do with any, at least seemingly on the surface, has nothing to do with anything her cousin has done to, whether it's to rub it in or show her up in any way. So this is just, she's just living her life, and things seem to go really well for her. So I think this is more about having some introspection about her own life and appreciating the things that are going well. That would be one part. And then communicating that to her, I think, would be helpful for her cousin, because her cousin seems like a decent, nice person. So I think those are a couple of starting points.
Yeah, those are good points. Yeah, I'd say for my part, I mean, I think jealousy is, like you say, it's basically a universal emotion to some degree, and it's understandable. And I think, you know, a lot of where it comes from is attachment, right? Attachment kind of in the Buddhist sense, right? You're attached to the world and the happenings in the world and the things of the world. And you know, not to say that, you know, she should live as a monk instead. It's more that, you know, it's good when we can shift our focus from just being sort of immersed in what happens, right, and the various things that play out in our lives. um if we can, when we shift our awareness, you know, so that instead of just being caught up in that movie, we're kind of controlling more and more our own reaction to it, right? We're more sort of in our own thoughts, saying, okay, how am I thinking about this? How could I think about it differently? Right. That is a state where, you know, we're moving away from a layer of attachment to the things of the world that really, I think, keeps us down and you know, plays with our feelings in a bad way. And I think that uh, when you're caught up in that place of attachment, what happens is, you know, the things of the world are sort of what you know, and they're how you try to apply meaning, and how you try to define yourself. And you know, in that state, you kind of define things through contrast, right? You're not, again, you're not going to that sort of elevated space where you're thinking like, okay, can I think about things differently? It's just kind of like, oh, well, this thing is good, this thing is better, this thing. And it's a lot about contrast. And I think inevitably what you end up doing is the only way you really ultimately know how to define yourself is through contrast. So you say, well, you know, I'm, you know, some people go the other direction, and you know, their whole sense of meaning comes from, well, I'm, you know, I'm godlike compared to these little, you know, these little peons running around, you know. And on the other end, you've got this, right? You've got like, oh, well, some people just seem to have it all figured out, and I'll just never be one of those people, and I'm, you know, I'm cursed or something. um and so, yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with moving away from that place of attachment, and just kind of, you know, being a part of this movie of the world, and saying, okay, how can I kind of re-angle the camera? Like, how can I change how I respond to things?
I think trust is an important component here. To trust that your cousin will react appropriately to what you have to say. Like she seems to be keeping it all sort of on herself and in her own head, instead of being honestly sharing her feelings, and then, you know, letting her cousin react the way she would react, you know. And I think your cousin would probably be supportive and sympathetic towards her, instead of defensive and hostile. But if she is defensive and hostile, then that's, you know, some information of how to deal with it. But a lot of people don't really trust, or aren't willing to allow themselves to take the chance to trust, to see, well, you know, I'll let this person treat me as I would want to be treated, and instead it's like, well, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to hold this, and I don't want to say this. But if you just let it out there, you'll see one way or the other how they're responding, and then you can move forward like that. But if you don't trust enough to at least test the waters, then you're sort of in purgatory and not moving forward. And so I'd say, yeah, like Adam was saying, let her know how you're feeling, uh, and then see how she responds.
I agree with all what you said, you guys. Good points, all of them. And she should communicate in an honest way to her cousin about it. She probably feels that something is wrong, but doesn't know what it is. And who knows, maybe she doesn't have such a perfect life as this girl thinks. She might have her problems. But what I was thinking, we don't know that, but she says it felt like they were being compared from a very young age, which means that maybe, and this is just a maybe, but maybe other people, adults at that time, compared them and, you know, sort of created kind of a pattern in this girl's head that she was
Yeah.
inferior, and she she's really suffering from inadequacy and inferiority now, I think. So maybe she has to work with that too, if it's true. I don't know, but she knows that. Look at it, see if it's something other people also put into your head, and just try to delete those thoughts when they come up and replace them with some good ones about yourself. I'm sure you're a great girl and have successes. Try to find them and look at them too. I don't know if this is an issue, but it could be, because she says this, it felt like we were always being compared. That sounds like other people compared them.
Yeah, that's something to look at if that's being significantly put on her, or it has been.
Could
There
be.
was a good comment actually, in terms of how to deal with the jealousy, not just deal with her her relationship with her friend, because part of it's the jealousy. And they said something like, don't compare yourself to others. One person said, like, as a twin, this is every twin's experience. But yeah, I mean, just dealing with the personal issue, the jealousy. Like, if you're looking at it as the comparison angle, me versus her, that's not going to lead you away from being jealous. If you're looking at it sort of the way of, did I do better than myself in the past? That's a way to feel better about what you've done, because you're making progress. You've handled some of your issues. But if you're always comparing yourself to somebody else, then there's always going to be somebody better than where you're at. And you can't really feel good about it because you're not up to wherever that is. But if you realize you're making progress and you're doing, well enough moving forward, then you can be, at least happy about that.
Yeah, one question she could maybe ask herself is, what would my life be like without my cousin? Then you take that contrast, that comparison out of the equation. Would she be looking for other contrasts? What kind of experience would that bring? Because really, there seems to be a self-esteem problem, and I don't suspect it's solely caused by how wonderful her cousin's life is. And so I think there's an opportunity here for looking inside, and I think communicating with her cousin could be really helpful, but even communicating to somebody else with some outside perspective, maybe a therapist or something, that can help her focus on that inward view of herself, and start to see the good in her life. And like you say, judge her life based on where she's headed and where she's been, rather than what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think, tracking her personal progress like that, that's great, because it's like the whole thing is she's by being so fixed in this comparison angle, it's like it's kind of a form of self-objectification in a way, right? When I say that, I mean, like, instead of seeing yourself as like this kind of life force and this energy that's moving in the world and progressing, you're seeing yourself as like basically a thing, an object that is better or worse in some way than some other object. And these, it's fixed qualities that you're kind of focusing on. And so meanwhile, the real you, which is this kind of dynamic force, is stagnating because all that energy is being put into, well, why am I, such a lowly thing, like it's not being put into actually developing and becoming who you are. So. Well, and anybody else have more insights to share on this?
I think we wish her well, as always, and I think it's important for her to, like we've already said, I think it's important for her to feel comfortable and trust that her cousin can respond in a way that could be helpful for her to move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's another example of, goodwill to yourself, having goodwill to yourself, and, that creating an understanding of when you're expressing mutual goodwill with others, right? Because if you don't have it for yourself, that throws everything off.
Yeah, good luck, OP.
Indeed. All right, guys. Well, that's it for us today. If you do like this kind of content, our content specifically, please like, subscribe, hit that little notification bell to make sure that you're informed when we produce a new video, which will be happening pretty often. And we'll see you guys next time. Everyone have a